Alright, this video is for anybody that thinks that they cannot draw, and I'm going to show you exactly why you're wrong. So let's get straight into it. Before you draw anything, you need to understand how shapes work. Everything that you see is a shape. It doesn't matter if it's a building, a car, a soda bottle, it's all composed of shapes. Now, in order to create those shapes, you need to know how to draw a line. And I'm going to teach you how to do that. It might sound simple, but trust me, it's going to help in the long run. I highly recommend following along. You don't have to use an iPad like I am. You can just simply use a pencil and a sheet of paper. Alright, so all we're doing here is just drawing a line across the page. It doesn't matter how straight it is, how curved it is, just draw the line across the page. The reason why we're doing this is because we want to get our hand used to making this movement. Just think of this like a warm-up before you work out, right? You don't just jump straight into the exercise, you stretch first. You got to get your body warmed up. This is the same thing. You don't want to just jump right into drawing because you're not used to it yet. Make sure you're using your whole arm when you're doing these lines, not just your wrist and your fingers. Because if you just do that, your hand's going to cramp up very fast. You're not going to be able to even get into the drawing that you want to actually do. When you're drawing, make sure you're using your whole arm, starting from your shoulder down to your elbow, and then finally down to your wrist and your hand. It should all be moving at the same time. And when you're holding your pencil, don't have such a tight grip on it. You're going to cramp up as well if you do that. Make sure your hand grip is loose and you're just going with the flow. Now we're going to draw lines just straight up and down, simple. Like I said, doesn't have to be perfect. Just wanted to get your hand used to the movement. And then here we're going to make lines that are diagonal. Just left from right. Like I said, simple. Doesn't have to be perfect. You just want to draw as many lines as you can. Just fill up the page. Keep going. And you can take a break if you start to feel a little bit uncomfortable. Like I said, it's new. Your body's going to have to get adjusted to doing these specific type of movements. You could even go from right to left instead of left to right. Same thing. Just fill up the page with as many lines as you can. And here we're just going to add some curved lines. Again, nothing too crazy. Just similar to the diagonal line, except just curve the line a little bit as you're going down the page. And finally, we get into circles. Now, I know people are kind of afraid of circles, but again, we're not looking for it to be perfect. We're just trying to get the movement down. So just go ahead, draw as many circles as you can. Try to get used to it. The more you draw it, the more you'll start to see the lines connecting with your circle. Now we're going to get more into shapes here using the lines that we practiced earlier. We're going to start off with something simple, just a square. Doesn't have to be perfect. Just go ahead and try to connect the lines together in a square form. As you're making these shapes, try to avoid doing chicken scratch. And what I mean by that is making a lot of excessive lines that just does not need to be there. The whole point of this is for you to get used to drawing with the least amount of lines as possible to make a believable shape. You don't need a bunch of chicken scratch lines to make the simplest shapes. Let's go ahead and get into triangles as well. Again, it's just using those diagonal lines that we practiced earlier. Simple. Try to make it with as little amount of lines as you can. No chicken scratch. We do not want chicken scratch. It's okay if you have like a couple extra lines in there. Just don't make the whole thing look super scratchy when you're doing this. That's not the point of this. The point is to use the least amount of lines that you possibly can. So that triangle that we just made, let's go ahead and add a little bit of a 3D view on it, right? So we'll make it into a cone, which all it is those two diagonal lines and then a curved line at the bottom. It's as simple as that. And if you want, you can make a fake line behind the cone just to make it look like it's a little bit more 3D, just to really show that it has a base and then it has the two diagonal lines on the side. And you see I'm doing this pretty quick. It's just so I can get the cleaner lines, because the longer that your pencil's on the paper, the more likely it'll be wobbly if you're too focused on each little line. All right, let's change up the shape of the triangle a little bit. It's still gonna be a triangle, except this time, instead of a curved line at the bottom, it's gonna be straight, and then we're gonna draw two diagonal lines in the back and one to close it off. Kind of make it to look like a tent a little bit, or like the top of a building. And if you look close enough, you might notice something. You might actually see a completely different shape on the side of the triangle, which looks like a square. It literally just looks like a triangle in the front and a square on the side. Essentially, that's all it really is when you're trying to make this specific type of shape. So now we're gonna get into drawing a box using that square that we had drew earlier, using the two horizontal lines and two vertical lines. If I could actually see, not everyone's perfect, guys. I'm struggling too sometimes. I struggle too. Now to make this look 3D, all we have to do is just draw those diagonal lines we practiced earlier on a few corners of the square. And to connect them, you will just draw the corresponding lines that you see here. And there you have it. It is as simple as that to draw a box. Go ahead and practice this a few times just so you can get used to connecting all the lines together to create this shape. Again, the more you practice it, the easier it'll get. Now, circles are a little bit harder to show that it's 3D without actually including shading, because all you're really doing is making the circle into a sphere. But again, it's easier to see that with shading, which I will save that for a different video. But for now, let's just go ahead and draw the circle like normal and then make a curved line going across it to try to make it look more like it's a ball almost, but you're really just trying to show that it's curved. You could even draw a little faint line in the back to, again, kind of show that it's round and it's curved all the way around. And this is actually pretty important when you want to draw faces. Most artists, they all start off with a circle to draw the head. And lastly, let's get into drawing cylinders. Cylinders, again, pretty easy. All it is you draw that little circle. You're gonna draw two straight lines on the side and then a curved line to connect it at the end. Again, it does not have to be perfect, but as long as you can get the idea across that this is a cylinder, then it's fine. Art isn't about perfection. It's just a way for us to express ourselves in ways that words cannot. Thank you guys for watching. If you followed along and practiced with me, kudos to you. If you didn't, what are you doing? Go ahead and grab a pencil and a paper. If you really want to start getting good at art, even though this is very, very simple, I promise you it will help you in the long run.